if you're buying voice services on a global basis, I actually feel bad for you. It's very complicated, and most people don't even really know what their options are. You have folks like us in the cloud voice space, you have the traditional telecom providers, and then you can buy voice through your contact center software provider potentially. Depending on who you work with, they all have different capabilities.
Welcome to Season 10 of CX in the Wild. 10 seasons of conversations with the visionaries who are reshaping the world, one experience at a time. This season, we go further into the minds of those who challenge the status quo and reimagine what's possible. And now, the adventure continues.
All right, welcome back to CX in the Wild. We're here on day 2 at the Customer Connect show in Las Vegas. It has been a whirlwind. What a great show. I have a special guest today. Mike's the first guest up today. Mike, I always start out by just asking our guests to share who they are and what's keeping them busy these days. If you can speak about whatever you want. You don't need to mention a brand. You can mention your passions or hobbies, but the show is really about sharing people's true voices. So say whatever you want, and we edited to try to celebrate who you are and what you think. So
okay, sounds great.
Who you are and what's keeping you busy these days.
Yeah, well, hey everyone. My name is Mike Kaplan. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Aoxy, which provides an international cloud voice platform for contact centers looking to connect with their customers around the world. So, Aoxy is a fast-growing company, which and running marketing for it is the thing that keeps me busy between that and family, of course. That's that is what is keeping me busy for sure.
Our last 2 children left the nest last year. The family thing with children, that is a full-time, 24-hour a day, no vacation job. So congratulations. And running Avoxy now, I've seen Avoxy at many different shows around the world, or maybe particularly in the US. Are you predominantly going to US shows, or are you showing up around the world?
Yeah, Avoxy is a very global company, and that is one of the great things that I love about it. We're about 160, 170 people, but we need to operate by the nature of what we do 24/7 by 365 and be very local all around the world in the places that we provide voice coverage. So we have, obviously, we're headquartered in the US, we have a strong base in Atlanta and throughout the country, but then I was just mentioning to your colleague, big team in South Africa, Asia, South America, so Europe, of course, right? So we need to be everywhere where we're helping our customers, large enterprises, really deliver their voice solution. It's just one of the very cool things about the company, for a company of our size, to have that sort of global reach and be able to interact with all different types of cultures, colleagues, and across the team.
We often like to say we're co-creating the new global economy through CX standards and leadership. So you're really speaking my language. How long has Avoxy been in business?
So Avoxy's actually been, it was founded all the way back in 2001, so north of 20 years, but really the current incarnation of Avoxy of delivering voice through the cloud and being a very software-led company began in really around 2018. So that's when the company really repositioned itself and built a software platform to really automate what is traditionally been a very legacy analog technology in voice and telephony and bring it into the modern cloud era.
And in a crowded space, you have a lot of competitors emerging everywhere. It's not an easy landscape to participate
For sure.
in.
I was speaking yesterday about this during my talk, and I was saying to the audience, if you're buying voice services on a global basis, I actually feel bad for you. Because it is, from a buyer's perspective, if you're in CX or you're in IT, it's very complicated, and most people don't even really know what their options are. You have folks like us in the cloud voice space that are really, really directly providing the service. You have the traditional telecom providers, and then you can buy voice through your contact center software provider potentially, or your unified communications provider. And depending on who you work with, they all have different capabilities in terms of reach, in terms of phone number types, and then what do they do in terms of software to actually help you manage the voice layer. And so it's complicated. There's no Gartner Magic Quadrant on really what we do, which, trying to change that, just build overall, it's one of my remits is to build overall visibility for voice as a category. I see that as something really important to the marketing efforts for Avoxy.
Once again, sounds like you're like me, getting on the Boil the Ocean program. So much of what you said there, internationally with voice, everything from, 3G, 4G, 5G carriers, infrastructure, Starlink. You have now all of this rapidly evolving infrastructure. You have now suddenly capabilities for voice in locations in the world that were previously off roadmaps because figuratively and literally because of the cost. But now you sort of, the good news is you're in a crowded space, but the world and the market just got extraordinarily right-sized for this sort of growth. But at the same time, you're being compared with a lot of legacy providers who say what you say and say they do what you say, but the newer arrivals like yourself, you have an advantage that it's impossible to hear through the screaming.
Right, for sure. And so, often with a lot of customers, what we've done is we've been able to provide, maybe let's start in a certain region or a certain country, and very quickly it becomes clear to them that, a company like us, our speed, our agility, and how we do everything with software is really becoming much more paramount for them as they look to connect all of the other applications that are here at the show, your contact center software, your artificial intelligence apps, people wanting to bring in enterprise communications into, a single sort of voice solution. And so our ability to just integrate with the ecosystem and work with partners here becomes really, really important. And I think just compared to some of the other legacy providers, a provider like us can just move much, much faster and allow you to get to market. You could go to a Avoxy site today, buy a phone number in a country, connect it to your CCaaS solution, all today, right? It's a very, very quick process. And so just that sort of speed, connectivity, the service aspect of what we do and just the focus on the international voice for contact centers, I think really helps us differentiate. So to us, it's all about starting a relationship and building from there.
And when you say relationship, it's interesting that you use that term as a spectrum because in order to deliver on what you're saying, you're going to have a lot of relationships under the hood with a lot of different providers, a lot of different solutions that govern compliance, navigate the different technological switching that's out there across the different countries. You have quite a bit of relationship building, it sounds like, in the last 10 years that provides this agility that you're speaking of. Because without a strong foundation, there's no agility. And your implementation on the front end, you have to have a lot of UX, CX pieces. So it sounds like you tailor front ends to fit into a lot of other providers' ecosystems. Is that right?
For sure. I mean, doing international voice is incredibly complex. I mean, it's one thing to stand up voice here and the nice simplified, advanced US market. It's a whole other thing to try and do it across north of 150 countries with, you hit the nail on the head. Lots of different carriers, lots of different protocols, and then to bring that the regulations, right, which we almost have to talk about every day as an executive team, just changing dynamics into our markets. And that's our value at the end of the day for a global company, to just abstract all of that noise, because often today what we see is companies are working with 5, 10, north of 20 operators around the world, and you can't really manage that effectively and do what you need to do and move quickly. So we just try and take all of that noise, abstract it in the sense of, yes, one, connecting with the best carriers around the world and those partners. So we work with north of 100 tier one providers and connect directly into them, and then take however they send us that traffic, normalize it and send it back consistently into our customers, tenants, and contact center solutions, and so that the voice quality is delivered as consistently as high quality as it can. And again, that's all we focus on every day, all day, is solving this problem. And I'd say that's a lot, right?
It is, because there's so many other things that you're saying that the audience may or may not know, but delivering high quality voice, okay, that's one technological challenge. But these protocols and these regulations and the economic details it takes, whether it's currency conversion or it's transactions or it's fees from, because one phone call, you could hit a bunch of fees from a bunch of different countries.
Yep.
And not know how to navigate that. So it really sounds like Avoxy is, you're not just delivering voice. You're negotiating the best touch point for customers and agents to interact with a halo of moving technologies, languages, protocols, costs, economics, and you're distilling that down into a single leverageable interface by your partners that then allows them to scale. Am I thinking about this correctly?
Well, you could come do marketing for us. For sure. No, I mean, tons. You said a lot. There's tons of complexity in what we do on the voice, and I think we've done a ton to automate all of those things. And then I think the other thing that's really important to us is bringing voice and doing all those things and putting it in the cloud and making sure it's all working is step one. Step two, step three, step four is, how do I take that? You mentioned rates and tariffs. Most companies that we talk to, it is very difficult. They don't even know what they're spending globally because they have those 20 providers. They're getting paper bills all around the world, and so bringing that voice in a consolidated way into a single platform to understand, what am I spending? What numbers are being used? Do I need all of these thousands of numbers, or do I maybe need a portion of them? What are they being used for? Insights around the call quality, answer rates, all of that is available once you bring it into the cloud, and then the connections, as you said, more and more applications coming online. AI is a huge trend that we're super excited about, and what it is doing for the voice channel, and really a refocus in our minds on voice. So it's a pretty exciting time.
And it sucks because all of what you're doing, it requires a infinite amount of knowledge and agility to learn. But then when the buyer comes down to it, they're really just like, what's in it for me on price?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it all comes down to this single, unrelated value.
Yep.
That how do you overcome that? And what is your innovation in the crowded space?
Yeah.
I mean, certainly you've talked about a strong foundation, a historical perspective on the evolution, which I think probably positions you well for the right trajectory in the short term. You have a earlier mover advantage in that you've seen more than some, you've done more than others, you've struck the right partnerships. But even so, every person in this space is going to do that and say these things, but at the end of the day, they're all just going to sit in a room and try to sharpen their pencils and go back and haggle. It's like you be in a market somewhere. Wait, can you do it for this? So what are you doing what is the innovative anchor?
Yeah, I mean, look, price in any technology category is always going to be a factor. I think the one nice thing for us and our customers looking at a solution like ours is that they have voice today, right? Voice is an essential thing they need to deliver. So they have budget, and it's more about, is it worth, or where does it make sense for me to modernize my voice infrastructure and shift that budget versus like, hey, I need to go and ask for additional funding for something. So price comes into a factor in certain areas. There's times where it's less of a factor and it's much more about value. So one of the areas that we lead in is this notion of a true local service, where we can help companies present a local caller ID across 110 countries. So what does that do, right? It increases answer rates by 2 to 3x. That helps you with sales. It helps you with your customer service, the ability to actually connect with their customers by giving them a phone number that they trust. So there, it's less about trying to compare it to another service, because it's more about what is the value of this thing that I can get from Avoxy and not anywhere else. Then I think just the way that we automate and the visibility we give, it comes down to, from a value perspective, do I want to keep trying to manage these 20 providers all around the world, and the costs that are associated with that, the costs of being down, and it's difficult for me to get back up if I'm having maybe call quality issues in a certain region or with a certain provider. So all of those things can vary by the customers that we talk to, but much more often than not, there's like a lot of value to making the move. And the good news is we can move progressively. It's not some big lift and shift exercise that you might need to do like a classic SaaS product. You can start, where does it make sense? Maybe in a region, maybe with a certain contact center that you're working with, and just by the nature of what we do, we can be pretty agile.
I got it. So if I could sum this up, it sounds like you're new. While your company is not new. New is the thing that the buyer wants from you, and they want new and better, and they're switchers. So when they come in their cycle and they're evaluating upgrades, if you will, you're on their list of potential enhancements for the future, all the things, cost, ecosystem, future proofing, all that. You're in that category, but you're also in the new first time solution in emerging markets. What markets are your emerging markets?
Yeah, so one of the unique things about Avoxy is our coverage in places like Asia, Africa, the Middle East, South America, and just the depth of those types of phone numbers that I just mentioned within them. So all of those places companies are expanding globally all the time. The amount of just global, we've looked at some stats just around the orders of magnitude of global growth that there has been since, going back to 1980 to 2000 to 2020. It's just huge, right? And companies, as you have a digital presence online and you can reach customers around the world, you need to be able to service them effectively. And so being able to touch all of those countries where those end customers are at, it'll vary by a company where they want to start, but just being able to provide that service becomes a really great way for us to start the relationship.
I mean, yeah, many people don't even understand it, that Africa is growing at 25% year over year
Yep.
in this market, in this space. So there is huge advantages. We are speaking with leaders of governments in the world, in countries that you wouldn't even expect for this industry to be sprouting up, but they're coming, and there are some countries who they're certainly going to try to leapfrog over all of this. They're going to take the best learnings and establish a whole new world, and you're right there, ready to do that.
We're working with a really fascinating company. Actually, they're based in Africa, a company called Flutterwave. They're a fintech startup. They're actually a unicorn at this point, providing payment services throughout Africa and now beyond. And they came to us because even though they were based in Africa, they were having trouble, as you can imagine, doing anything in financial services in Africa, you need to build customer trust. And so they were just challenged to connect even with existing customers all around Africa and these countries where they couldn't get good quality phone service, they couldn't get, have that local presence. And so they came to Avoxy looking for that phone number coverage, the ability to integrate with their CRM so that they could really synergize the data between the voice channel and what their customer data was telling them and how they wanted to route calls. And so it's just really fascinating. Companies like that all around the world that we're able to work with. And that was really cool. I had some really good conversations with them recently.
I find that very fascinating because I have a call center in Africa. I'm currently part of a nationwide workforce development catalyst program in the BPO sector, and it rolls out in June. And then we already have 4 other countries in Africa getting lined up. And Avoxy sounds like we better talk to you.
Yeah, for sure. We would love to.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you. I like sharing. I like sharing these stories from the inside out. This is a platform. When we post, we include all of your contact information as a service for you to get exposure. But if you want to say anything to the audience, share your voice, your personal voice, your brand voice to the world. If you had one thing to say to the world of CXers, what would it be?
I think that voice is the most powerful way we can communicate. And so what I'd say to CX professionals is think about how you want to prioritize voice as you move into an AI world, whether it's you're allowing your customers to communicate with a human or a bot. Make sure that you have your voice infrastructure dialed in, because it is, in my mind, still the preferred channel for many, many types of ways you need to service and sell to your customers. So we're excited about partnering with companies that need to reach customers all around the world.
Mike, thank you. You heard it from Mike. If you want to go global and you need voice, Avoxy has it dialed in. No pun intended. No, I love that pun. You set me up for that. That's amazing. Thank you, Mike, so much for being on the show today.
I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you for being part of this journey with us. We hope these conversations challenge your thinking and inspire you to explore new paths. There's so much more to discover. Keep listening, dive into more episodes, and let's continue this adventure together.